Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mikael Colville-Andersen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am Mikael, that is true. I have been working in urban design and urban planning in over 100 cities around the world, just trying to do what I can to improve the urban human condition. I have a very long personal relationship with Berlin. I came here in the 90s, the 2000s. A lot of it was Bar 25 and Bergheim, so I don't know anything about what happened. I completely forgot that. But I have a relationship with this city, and one thing about, I'm going to be very diplomatic today, which is not normal for me. One thing is it never gets boring in Berlin, right? So good luck with that. But yeah, I'm the author of Copenhagenize. I have worked in many cities designing the bicycle infrastructure based on Danish best practice, which is 110 years old, copy-pastable into any city in the world. And the book is everything we need to know about putting the bicycles back as transport. And it also has a German version. So I don't need to talk about bikes today. I can just say buy the book. But if you have questions afterwards, that's fine, about bikes. But yeah, I'm the host of The Life-Size City. We just finished season 4, and the episode is not about CityLab, it's about Berlin. And you guys are in the Berlin episode. But yeah, what I do is I travel around the world, and I visit people in cities who are trying to make things better. And I can tell you one thing, it's never the politicians. It's not the planners or the engineers. Everywhere we go, it is the citizens. And it surprised us when we started filming this back in 2016. The citizens completely hijacked this series. And it was amazing. I've noticed that there is a global, subconscious, collective movement. Citizens everywhere. A random neighborhood in Buenos Aires, somewhere in Toronto, in LA, people are standing up going, yeah, you know what? I can't wait anymore. You know, nothing's happening. Let's get some neighbors together. Let's do this ourselves. It is a beautiful collective movement that we're seeing. And there's no one catalyst. Nobody knows where it came from. It just happened. It's like citizens are tired after 70 years of car-centric planning in our cities. Enough is enough. There's a podcast in English, there's a YouTube channel as well. But I want to talk today about something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. Lessons for future-proofing our urban world. Getting our cities ready for everything that's coming, because there are things that are coming. And we have to prepare for this. First of all, I always like to highlight my skepticism about this obsession with tech that we have in our modern world. And it's important to identify that humans, by nature, are techno-optimists. Not a good thing. We are fascinated with the technology right in front of us, going, this is awesome, this is so modern, but all we really want to know is what's coming, right? What's the next thing they're going to throw at us that will make my life easier? This makes us very vulnerable. This makes us very easy to exploit as consumers, right? As a market, because they know that we're waiting for the next shiny toy. I really think that we should return to something that worked very well for humans for 1 million years, you know, give or take, of human development. The rationality. We invented things for 1 million years because we needed it, here and now. Problem, need a solution, rational thought. And you probably have this in German as well, the expression, necessity is the mother of invention. That was the slogan, the advertising slogan for humans for 1 million years. But nowadays, and I really mean in this modern era, we have all these different people doing most of the inventing, and they are engineers, they're entrepreneurs, you know, there's dudes in Silicon Valley, the tech dudes, and none of these people represent all of us. They are paid to invent stuff that we can buy. And I think that really all the wrong people are doing most of the inventing in our modern society. And cities, man, they are far too organic. You know, humans have urgent urban needs that are not represented by profit-based tech companies, you know. The wrong people doing all the inventing. And I'm always very skeptical about the phrase smart city. I've been hearing it for years. I speak at the conferences. I don't know why they ask me to speak there, because I'm the guy who says, hi, yeah, 7,000 years of urban experience since we started living in cities. There were some pretty cool ideas that worked. But we don't look backwards. We only look forwards, right? And those cities worked a lot better than our cities today. We have to look back and think what worked and can they be used in our cities today. And I've asked people for years, hi, what is a smart city? You know, what is the definition? You know, and nobody has one answer to this question. You know, if you tell people, like at a bar, outside the industry about the 15-minute city concept. You know, if you live there in 15 minutes, everybody's going, oh, okay, I get that. That's intuitive. Smart city, nobody has a clue. So maybe that's maybe not a good thing that we focus so much on that. Obsessing, as we do as humans, about tech and smart in 2023 is really like Emperor Nero fiddling while Rome burns down below. You know, tech will not save the world. You know, they want us to believe that. There are t-shirts with this slogan, but it won't save the world. All the best applications I've seen of tech and digital applications are the ones that help existing ideas from other industries, from other professions. You know, hey, this really is a cool thing. Can tech make it better for us? Those are the ones that work the best. So this obsession with tech we have to really take it easy. So climate change is here. We all know that. It's going to get worse. No discussion here about that. What I've noticed all over the world is that most cities are hopelessly underprepared to tackle the challenges that they all individually face. A lot of talk, you know, a lot of narrative about it, but very few actual preparations. So climate change is a crisis, and I decided to look at other crises that we've been through recently to see what lessons we can learn. And during the pandemic, I was always interviewed going, ooh, Michael, what is the post-pandemic city going to be like and stuff? Now we're here on the other end of it, and we can maybe learn some things. So what happened? We were all in together, global pandemic. We worked from home, you know, we Zoomed with our friends, colleagues, you know, family, and Zoom was really the only tech, and I'm doing that, that had an influence on our daily lives, you know, but that's just Skype. It's just a telephone with a screen. It was nothing really fancy and new. But what we did do all over the world, I was so fascinated by this, we all went to our windows and went, holy shit, car-free streets. They said that was impossible, it will never happen, and we're all looking out our windows at the same damn thing. We all have that shared collective vision. I just think that's poetic and beautiful. Even the motorists, you know, I'm not one of them, but even the motorists are going, okay, fine, that is kind of nice, you know. Wait, I can hear bird song in my backyard for the first time, man. You know, all of a sudden we could hear our city. Even the motorists could hear stuff. Beautiful shared experience. We saw something really that we haven't seen before, that cities could really adapt quickly and creatively to the challenges that we faced, embracing the opportunity for urban change. It was amazing to see how many cities, and weird cities that you would never think would do stuff, you were doing stuff like this. A car lane became a bike lane. Sidewalks were widened, you know, because nobody wanted to ride public transport, social distancing, walking around. These examples are from Paris. Many cities did the same thing. The cool cities are making this permanent now. Paris is way ahead of the curve on that one. But what we did see was like cities, and I've worked with them all over the planet, and they are all so boring and bureaucratic and, you know, municipal and conservative, and, ooh, that's a bit of a crazy idea. Michael, I don't know about that. We have to have 18 meetings to, you know. But we saw them actually do it fast, you know. It's like this gotcha moment. Ha! You can do it fast and effective if you want to, right? If you're pressured by a pandemic, why don't you just do that every damn day? We explored our neighborhoods. You know, I discovered architectural details on buildings on my street where I've lived for 20 years. How did I never see that before? We gained ownership over our neighborhoods by walking around a lot because we were working from home. Another beautiful shared experience. We noticed that the shipping crisis, man, that was a bit of a problem. We should not be so dependent on countries far, far away on everything, right? Now we're seeing certainly, and the importance of local shops and locally sourced goods. We're seeing industry starting to think about, hey, how can I get back to Europe? And urban industry, even more important, smaller scale urban industry in the heart of our cities, not far out in the suburbs. We responded to human urban needs with simple analog solutions. This is the one takeaway. Unfortunately, a lot of cities took away their temporary bike lanes and things like that. The one universal takeaway from the pandemic all over the world, outdoor seating. They're still in place everywhere. Take some parking away, put in some chairs and tables for social distancing. The business can still make some money. They're still in place. Even weird places in America are doing it. Ah, damn, that was a good idea. Okay, and they're sticking to it, right? Simple analog ideas, just giving us all the impression, like the city, you know, my life is kind of normal. I'm still sitting outside looking at the architecture, having a coffee or whatever, right? But that was all of these things that happened in the pandemic. Science came along. A beautiful collective effort, found the vaccines in a hurry and did all that good work. But in our daily lives, it was simple and analog. Then we walked from a pandemic and then straight into a brutal invasion of a country right on our borders here in Europe. And I decided to think about, what lessons can we learn from Ukraine and Ukrainian cities? And I've had a lot of opportunity to think about this because I have spent more than 6 months in Ukraine since the start of the full invasion. And I have been in the safe cities in the west and the really brutal, horrible experiences in the east. But I was asked last year in April, I got an email from people I didn't know, colleagues, urban planners in Ukraine. They said, Michael, man, you're from Copenhagen, the best city in the world for cycling. You must have some used bikes, right? And can you figure out how to get them to us in Ukraine because we need them now? This was last April. And I went, oh my God, yes. A personal appeal, something I could do for Ukraine. So I started an NGO, bikesforukraine.org, and I started to source used bikes, first in Denmark. We've also done a collection here in Berlin with my friends at changingcities.org in January. 150 good Berliners donated their bikes. And I have international crowdfunding to make it happen. But everybody asks, wow, cool, man, but why? Why do Ukrainians need bikes? Even Ukrainians ask, thank you so much, but why do we need them? I hear this a lot. But 2 reasons. One, in the West, population explosion, all the refugees from the East, still today. And bikes are a transportation solution. We know that coming from Copenhagen or Berlin. But most of the bikes we discovered, and this is all we work with now, is most of the bikes are used as lifelines. They deliver food, humanitarian aid, water, the post, medicine to the victims of this war in the most devastated areas all over the country. And bikes are versatile. They're easy to repair. They can navigate any landscape because the roads are bombed. There's very little public transport. It's not reliable. Gas shortages, all of these things that Ukrainians are struggling with. And then there's the bike, serving us like it has for 130 years. A simple and analog idea, a tool to make daily lives easier. These are some of the photos we get sent from the people who use the bikes, all of our NGOs in Ukraine, our network, volunteers, social workers. You have like a 22-year-old woman, she has 30 kilograms of potatoes, 20 liters of water, a backpack filled with food, riding 10 kilometers out to the destroyed villages, to the elderly, to give them things that they need. The bicycle, man, it's always there when we need us. So we have 900 bikes. I need like literally 50,000 more. Crowdfunding's more tough these days. But we're in 35 cities around Ukraine. Simple, analog solution is the point here. And then I work in Mikael a lot in the south, and they have had no fresh water since day one of the war, like no fresh water at all. And there was no massive tech solution coming out of the sky to help them. They just looked at their existing tram network and trolley buses, and they said, okay, great. And they converted them, many of them, to carry water. So people, I was there, people come out and they're filling the containers with water, regular stops throughout the city, and missiles overhead, explosions in the distance, you don't want to be there. But simple, analog, existing infrastructure, converted rationally and quickly to help people in their daily lives. Beautiful. We noticed also from the war that food security in cities is a problem. We knew this, but Ukraine spelled it out for us. If we all here today, if we all wanted to conquer a city somewhere, we would gather our armies 500 years ago. We would gather our armies and we would surround the city and cut them off from the outside world. And then we would just wait because wait for them to run out of food, because that's where cities kept their food for 7,000 years, inside the city, right? And nowadays, I don't know where my food comes from. I have no idea. Industrial complexes outside of Copenhagen, same thing in every city, right? It was so easy for Russians to take a number of cities because of this vulnerability. They just encircled them, and their food was on the other side. And they said, yeah, we got you, This is the scary fact. Whatever city you live in, this is universal around the world. If you cut that city off from the outside world tomorrow, there's only food for 14 days for the citizens. 10 million people, 2 million people, doesn't matter. That's all there is. This food security is so important with climate change coming, all the crises we could also face. Who knows what they're going to throw at us next time. This is really absolutely key to get this food security back into cities. Ukrainians have an incredible level of personal food security, unlike anything really in Europe. It's amazing. Like last October when they were being bombed, the energy infrastructure, Zelensky says, everybody go to grandma's house out in the country. Like in Denmark, we're going, everybody has a place in the country? Like we have summer houses, but we don't have grandma's house where there's masses of food, right? So they're still planting gardens. My friend goes to his grandma's house, which was bombed, and he just plants the garden like they did for hundreds of years. That personal level of food security in cities is incredibly important. We need to readopt that. There's this fun stuff, well, not fun, it's a war, but it's interesting stuff that I've seen. Like they just quickly put together like military checkpoints and bunkers, and, for the invading army coming at them. And it was all really interesting and creative, concrete, wood, sandbags. Now I see on the right, I just saw this last week, there's like somebody invented this typology, and they're just plopping them all around the country still today, right? Super interesting and also simple and effective. And the energy infrastructure attacked last year, and the Ukrainians were like, yeah, whatever, generators. We sent them from Europe. They found them themselves. And everywhere last year, almost overnight, generators appeared in every city. Huge ones like this that my hotel runs on in Kyiv, but also just tiny generators. And they're just powering the one espresso machine in that one little cafe. Coffee, I've learned, is incredibly important in a war, right? I'm texting my friends, like in Lviv, I'm going, you guys okay? He's going, I hate cold coffee, God. This is their major crisis. Ukrainians are amazing. But yeah, it's not cool to burn diesel, we know that. But in a war, man, simple, analog, existing infrastructure saves the day. I call this the age of urbanism. We're thinking differently about our cities and towns more now than at any point in the last 100 years. It's a beautiful time in urbanism. And this is where we're going to fight climate change. This is our front line, our cities, because local urban change can happen tomorrow. It can be incredibly effective very, very quickly. That's the front line in the war and in tackling climate change. That is street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city. That's all we have. National politicians signing papers, saying blah, 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 means nothing to me in my daily life or to you. Your street is the front line. You are the change. So we have the proof about why we need to future-proof our cities against crises that are coming. And every city in the world has urban farming. Somebody's growing something on the urban landscape everywhere on the planet, and they weren't doing that 20 years ago. Amazing. All the important reasons: biodiversity, cooling effect, food security, tackling pollution. But stuff like this, neighborhood kind of things, that's not enough based on the crisis that we're facing. No car parking on this roof in Copenhagen. Now it is an amazing farm, one of many. Still not enough. I am so tired in cities of baby steps. It's time, when you're faced with the worst crisis in human history, we need the great leap forward. And there are cities that are leading the way. There's no other city in the world that is doing as much as Paris is. It's really the only city to watch on a municipal scale. They're planning, for example, one of the many things they're doing, 4 urban forests. This is the city hall in Paris. That's what it's going to look like in a few years. Tackling all of the things that they're suffering, pollution, heat islands, everything like that. They're just going to the next level. And that is where we all need to go. Now, I've noticed, also temporary urbanism. We saw the temporary bike lanes that worked well during the pandemic, wide sidewalks. There are people who have been doing this for years, and it is also very effective. Friends of mine in the States, they take one block and they transform it just for a weekend or a week, and they say, this is what we're talking about. And all the skeptics are going, okay, I still hate it, but now I get it. It elevates the conversation to a much more intelligent level than just talking about it, right? I want bike lanes. I hate bike lanes. We're never going to get anywhere with that. They show what's possible. And this culture of pilot projects is something that many cities have. The Copenhagen we know today is really built on the back of pilot projects for like 40 years. Let's just try this really crazy thing and see if it works. Oh my God, it worked. Cool. Let's do it all over the city. Important strategy. Now, next level could also be relative in some places. The concept of the parklet, this English phrase. I see parklets all over the planet. Montreal has 1,000 municipal parklets, taking away parking, putting in some wooden seating, some shade, plants, you name it, right? But then I'm in Kyiv, and I realize, there's a lot of things they don't really know in Kyiv. And one of them is, there's only one that I've seen in Kyiv on the left, right next to my hotel. I've been staring at that thing for a year and a half. It's just, nobody's ever using it. It's just like, drying up. The wood is, fraying and stuff. And so last week I went, I can't look at that thing anymore. So I went out and I bought the paint in the local paint shop. I got some friends and some beers, and we painted it. Like no thought. We just went, put the purple there, the green, nobody cares. Let's just do it. The next day, families are using it. Old people are walking past going, that's nice. Huh, cool. Ladies sitting down. Instant results. I knew this was going to happen, but it still just kills me every time. It's amazing. People, drinking before the curfew, hot summer day, they're standing there. Amazing results. And it's every single day. And then the day after that, this is what I do when I'm in Kiev, there has not been a table tennis tabletop on those Soviet-era frames for 30 years. We asked all the older people in the neighborhood, they're going, no, that's like 30 years ago, man. So we went out and bought some wood, painted it, and made ping pong tables. And the paint wasn't even dry, and there were kids going, oh my God, cool. And we're going, the paint's not dry. And like they had paint, their mothers are going to kill us, but they had paint all over their clothes and everything. But they were like, oh my God, amazing. Just simple things like that. That is next level in these neighborhoods. I am also tired of engineering and traffic modeling and all this bullshit that we've been living with for 70 years, man. It hasn't worked. I've just always thought, like, why do we engineer streets like they're a machine or something, right? Streets are the most democratic space in the history of Homo sapiens for 7,000 years. Why don't we design them? Like, why don't we use design thinking, right? Like, everything we want in our lives, our phones, this clicker, the chairs, everything is a design process, a human-to-human process. Why don't we do that with our streets? You know, it's a simple idea, and it just bugs me that we haven't been doing that for about 70 years. I see cool stuff around the world. I see parks like this in Japan. The Japanese are prepared for everything, of course. They're ready for the next big earthquake, and they have these disaster parks all over the country. This one is in a quiet neighborhood that you've never heard of in Tokyo. And this is where they practice for the big earthquake. Could be tonight, could be in 20 years. It's coming, there's no doubt. And they all, and they do the drills, you know, regularly. Everything in this park transforms into something else. The benches become barbecues when disaster strikes. There's a team who are, you know, that's your job to do the barbecues, that's your job to do the toilets along the side. The infrastructure is in place. They're so ready for the earthquake. All the structures in the park are also this dual purpose. You can use them for a birthday party when the weather's nice, but they can be wrapped instantly, or they will be wrapped when disaster strikes. Even the playground on the right, where the kids climb and play, has literally been thought about in the design process to become the medical facility that will be needed when the earthquake strikes. This dual design fascinates me. It makes me think, what else could we do in our cities, right? Instead of focusing on so much on tech, like maybe we should be thinking about these simple, rational ideas that are actually going to help us when, you know, the shitstorm comes, right? And then I'm working in Mykolaiv. They've asked me to design the entire city for bikes, and so that like a new Copenhagen will rise in the south of Ukraine. That's my poetry, no, not anybody else's. But I'm doing what I've been doing for 20 years. And my Ukrainian team member, he's going, Michael, we're forgetting something, man. I'm going, I'm not forgetting anything. It's just my work. And he's going, evacuation routes. If the Russians come back, if there's a nuclear disaster and everybody has to flee. Like we saw in many cities, people just grabbed bikes and got away from the Russians. And I went, oh my God, of course. So dual purpose, mobility, public health, and then if they need it, let's hope to hell they don't need it. We're designing also routes that they can get out on, also by bike. Now, because the roads are all also jammed with cars, so there's also going to be this option. So Copenhagen is really, I think, one of the cities that is actually very prepared for climate change. Our climate change is tropical rain in the summer, like we've never seen it before. We were hit by a 1,000-year storm in 2011, like the most devastating storm in Danish history. And very pragmatic Danes looked at that and they said, that was bad. That must not happen again. And insane amount of investment, and that's a good thing, in climate change adaptation. Things just like a green roof policy for all new structures have to have a green roof for biodiversity, cooling effect, but some of the structures like the train station here, really a lot of dirt underneath the grass. It will soak up so much water, keep it out of the train station, off the streets. Just in my neighborhood, this appeared a couple years ago, it's a buffer between the bike lane and the sidewalk and those people who still drive cars in cities. They're still around. But it's a beautiful buffer, biodiverse, green. The street, I've measured it, it's actually cooler. It's grown a bit more since I took that photo. It's cooler along that stretch than on other streets. But the entire street has also been recalibrated. So all the water will flow into this buffer because it's also a reservoir. All these great things when the sun's shining and then when we need it, the water will go there and into the ground and out to the harbor instead of into our homes. And it's large scale too, man. This used to be car parking. And now it is a beautifully landscaped park. We can drink some beers, kids can play, but this park can handle the next 1,000-year storm in this neighborhood because all the streets have been Again, recalibrated. All the water will flow into this reservoir and fill it up and just take the water away from our homes. And it's all over the city, large and small. There's little circles, sponges we call them, right? Everywhere we can put a little bit of green, which is just generally awesome in a city, they're all designed for the rains when they come, and they are coming. There are so many ideas. Simple analog ideas is the whole point of my talk today. But I mean, I see stuff all over the world. This guy, he gives simple solar-powered lights to the poorest neighborhoods in Colombia, way up the mountain, completely cut off from the city, no access to the grid, illegal settlements, and he gives them street lights for the first time, improving their safety at night, sexual assault, accidents, tripping downstairs. He also gives them just the dignity of light, Buenos Aires, this NGO, they teach people in really low-income neighborhoods how to make these solar panels out of their garbage, cans and bottles, which heats the container on the roof and gives these people the dignity of hot water for the very first time. It also makes them incredibly self-sufficient. I wonder how it's going to work out for all of us in Europe with our fancy cities and well-designed cities when disaster really strikes, I don't think we have a high level of self-sufficiency, and I really think we should be thinking about this. I'm not saying we all have to survive in the woods for 20 years with one knife, right? It's not that extreme. Well, you never know, right? But I mean, it's just literally how are we going to tackle it? Like the Ukrainians have to tackle it, today. There's buildings like this that I didn't even know existed in Taipei. This is completely zero carbon. 1.5 million plastic bottles formed into poly bricks, and this building heats itself, it cools itself, it's earthquake proof. It doesn't need anything from anybody, it just is. Why is that not policy in every city, every country in the world? Not just sustainable materials, which is incredibly important conversation to have, but also recyclable materials. Not just cute little keychains made out of recycled plastic. Oh, my jacket, my rain jacket, it's recycled. Yeah, that's cool, but I mean, buildings that people can live in. My God, why are we not doing this? All right, at the end here, man, I'm an urban planner. I know lots of urban planners and engineers and designers and urban geographers, and they're all great people, and we're all clever. Yay. But we're not experts anymore. Our time is done. People don't have to listen to us. We have to do the listening all over the world. The experts are in every single city. Every one of you is the world's leading expert on the street you live on. You know all the details. Oh, that paving stone is sticking up, right? That garbage can never gets emptied. There should be a tree there. You're all experts. And all of the regular citizens who don't work in our industry are also that. People in Toronto go, why do we have this back alley, which is just for cars? Like, that's a lot of space. Can't we use it for community? And they went out and they did it. They planted green, they painted, they have community parties. And the city of Toronto came along going, you can't do that. You don't have a permit for that. But damn, that's a good idea. Okay, and now it's official policy in Toronto, right? The citizens, yeah, we told you so, right? You got these people in Mexico City, friends of mine. They reimagine these huge empty spaces they have in Mexico City. Look at the pedestrian crossing. It goes nowhere. People die in Mexico City. They work with the citizens and say, what do you want here? And they make it better. And this exactly the same story. The city of Mexico City, they went, oh, you can't do that. But that's an awesome idea. Now it's policy, right? Now they're engaged, they're enabling them to do it even more. And then lastly, the poorest neighborhood I think I've ever been in the world, in Cape Town. Again, an informal settlement, unrecognized by the city, like just an irritation for the city that, oh, those 3 million people live out there. It's really bizarre. You go in there, the guy on the left there, he's an urban planner. He grew up there and he came back and he said, hi, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what, I'm not going to be the clever urban planner. I shall help you poor people. He just knows that we have to shut up, right? And he goes into these places and he's going, what do you need to make your daily life better in this neighborhood that you built yourself out of nothing? And first of all, the people are like, nobody's ever asked us before? Like, oh my God, like, you can see me? Like, I'm not invisible. Wow, okay. Now sit down, get a pen, here's the list. The list, man, of ideas. You don't learn this anywhere in the world in urban planning school. It's simple analog ideas that will improve their daily life, man. These people are these are the ones that really got me thinking about how the citizens are the experts. In the TV series, it's all over the planet. It's not just them, it's everybody. All the citizens. It's time for us to just shut up and listen to them, engage them, and literally, enable them, right? That's with a pilot project, with a little test over here to see if it works. Then you can roll it out around the city. I'm done talking. No, well, I'm also done talking now. But I'm done talking, and I only want to listen to people because they know more. That little group of what, 6, 7 people in a Cape Town shanty town, they can design a neighborhood better than 500 people like me from anywhere in the world. A school class of 3rd grade kids. I've worked with them. They can do the same thing, man. It's time for the citizens to take charge of our cities. So rationality, keep it simple, man. Let's go back to rationality. And necessity is the mother of invention. Keep it simple. Design first. It's also like the engineers, we're done with them, right? They can help us when we figure out what to do, but man, they should not be on the pedestal that they're on. Citizen power for the win, and that's all of us, right? We're all the citizens in our cities. Listening to our neighbors is key, and really moving our cities forward. The front line against climate change is us, and nobody's coming to help us. We kind of know that in most cities in the world. It is really up to us and our neighbors to do this. Fancy quote from Einstein, look at that. Fancy quote from Jean-Paul Sartre. But I'm going to close with a quote from the late, great Mr. Elvis Presley. A little less conversation, a little more action, please. Thank you.